most people, they want to know what's in it for me. Oh yeah, I could go to a million different networking events. What's in it for me? And you'll say, no, come to this one. It's special. Yeah, right. What's so special about it? Well, I can introduce you to this guy that should be able to get you some business. I can introduce you to this guy who you might have some synergy with. I can introduce you to this. So definitely you've got to introduce them to their power team. I know at some trainings we're told that as a visitor host you should introduce them to the chapter director first and foremost. Unless he's in their power team, then no, I wouldn't bother. Obviously introduce them at some point to the chapter director because that's a privilege for the chapter director. Yeah. But it's got to be worthwhile to the visitor. You've got to make them feel warm and fuzzy every step of the way. So even before they get there, you're making them feel warm and fuzzy because you're saying, I can introduce you to this guy and this guy. And they're like, oh, okay, he's already thought about me. That's really nice. And that's a reason for me to come along. Because otherwise you're saying to them, come along to this group of people I know. And it's kind of impersonal, and it's kind of, there's no tie-in, there's no buy-in. But if you say, there is for example, if you're ringing up a graphic designer and you say, we've got a fantastic web designer, he'd really like to talk to you. Oh, okay, somebody's interested in talking to me. There's a reason for them to go. So yeah, definitely it gives them buy-in. It gives them a reason to get out of bed. Because otherwise, if they're just meeting a faceless group of people, especially first thing in the morning, especially if it's the winter, the alarm will go off at 5 o'clock or 5:30 or whatever, and they'll go, oh, I can't be bothered. Yeah. But if they know the web designer is there specifically and wants to talk to them, how can they not go? They want to make that effort. So you're more likely to get a visitor to turn up when they know they're being expected, not just by the group, but by someone, 2 or 3 people specifically. They don't want to make their company look bad by not showing up. BNI is all about good manners. Yeah. And it's good manners to greet your guests at the door. If you've invited them, you should be there to welcome them. There's nothing worse than a visitor turning up saying, oh, Fred Bloggs invited me, and oh yeah, he'll be along later. Oh, what does that say? You know, your reputation is at stake as well. So if you're not there to welcome them, they're not going to feel warm and fuzzy with you, are they? It's like, oh great, I've come up for you because you've invited me and you're not there. Or you're standing over there talking to somebody else and you've not even said hello. So it's just good manners to be there. And I know visitor hosts have the little label and they're supposed to do it, but they're kind of there for the other visitors that turn up because they saw it on the website or because the director consultant has sent them that week and the director consultant couldn't be there. Or maybe they came last week and the person that invited them is on holiday, so the visitor host is going to be looking after those sort of people. As well as your visitor, after you've introduced them to 1 or 2 people, they've still got to go and say hello and make sure that they've got everything they need. They've got their seat and they've got their cup of tea, all those sorts of things. But yes, if you've invited them, you want to be there to say hello. Otherwise, it doesn't reflect well back onto you, but also it gives them another reason to feel a little bit uncomfortable. And the whole point of this visitor thing is they have to feel special. As I say, every step of the way. My expression is warm and fuzzy. I want them to go away going, oh, that was lovely. That was really nice. And if they turn up and the person that invited them isn't even there with a smile, that's a reason for this little drip into the negative bucket of, oh, couldn't be bothered to turn up. So we have to make sure they're feeling warm and fuzzy all the way through. It's such a nice way to bring business to the room. Whether it's from another chapter or whether it's a visitor that you know is never going to join in a month of Sundays. If there's a connection in the room that's going to be useful for that person, and then, as you say, you ring them up before to make sure they're going to be there when this person visits. One of the examples I heard of was take a vicar. Now, that vicar has no business. He's never going to join, but how many people does he know? How many people is he going to be able to connect with, and how much business is he going to be able to pass around the table? Yeah. There is a little old lady, I'm not sure where, I think it's over in Kent region, she's about 80. She goes once a month to her BNI chapter to give referrals specifically. She's not a member, she just visits once a month because she needs to know that any tradesman that she uses is recommended and reliable. And that's why she goes to the BNI chapter, because that's where she gets all of her contacts from. And she gets all of her work done, all of her friends at the WI use them as well. And she's never going to join, but she goes to visit. So I wouldn't recommend everybody finding any old person to drag off the street to visit. And we are still aiming to bring eligible visitors in order to turn them into members. But at the same time, yes, if you know there's going to be a great connection in the room, that's the beauty of my job. Or when you're a director consultant, you work in one chapter, you work in another chapter, you can see a mile off there are 2 people going to work well together. They haven't even spotted, they haven't looked on BNI Connect to see the connections, and they don't know. And when you put the 2 of them together, you go, wow, that was brilliant. We've got lots of business out of it. If you think of somebody that you would like to get a referral from and maybe they haven't given you a referral, if you can do something nice for them, then they kind of owe you one. It's human nature, isn't it? So to do it specifically for somebody else is a great one, but to do it for somebody that, you know, might bring business to the whole chapter is also good. I think a visitor is a visitor. I don't think you want to worry too much about whether it's going to be for someone specific or general. I think any visitor in the room is going to be good. And invariably, it comes from the strangest things. You think, oh, I'll bring this visitor in for this person, and they end up doing business for somebody else. You think, well, I never saw that coming. And we can't sort of legislate for those kind of incidents. You never know when it's going to happen. So we're told that visitors are the second or third biggest referral givers. So, you know, the more people see anyone bringing a visitor, it reflects well back onto you. So you're going to be seen as a good guy in the piece. Invariably, you'll be in the green in the traffic lights. That means you're generating, you know, more around the table because people are going to be grateful to you for bringing those visitors. And obviously the visitors are going to be doing business with people too. So it's a win-win, really, all round. Going back to basics, though, to help them stay warm and fuzzy, if, for example, when they arrive, everywhere isn't signposts, they don't know where they're going, that's frustrating. So make sure the chapter gets everywhere signposts so they know exactly where they're going. I've got chapters where people will meet visitors in the car park to make sure they get to the right place. Somebody at the bottom of the stairs, somebody at the sign-in table, you know, wherever they any possibility of going, do I go this way or that way? There is something to make sure they go the right way. Then show them where they're going to sit down at the meeting and let them, if they've got stuff, invariably ladies have got handbags or coats or things, let them put their bits down and claim their seat. Because then when someone says, time for the next part of the meeting, nothing worse than that scramble of, oh gosh, okay, where am I sitting? What do I do? Have I got to get breakfast first? Or, you know, someone should explain it. Like, that's your seat, that's where you'll be sitting. I'll be sitting next to you. So, you know, we just get to have open networking now. Let's go and get you tea and coffee. Do the important things first. Get them to feel safe. Go and get them a tea and coffee. And as you're chatting, at that point, the visitor host or the person that's invited them is saying, you know, tell me a bit more about your business, who are the sort of people you do business with. Let me introduce you to somebody that is a good connection for you. You give them the tea and their coffee, and at that point you then say, right, okay, let's have a look. Oh, there's the web designer. Let's go and introduce you to him. He's great. And that web designer should have been preempted to say, my visitor wants to talk to you. So when they see you with that visitor, they know, oh, right, he's coming over with Frida, and I'm going to have a chat. So already they will know to be expecting that visitor to come and talk to them. So they won't be engrossed in a deeper, meaningful business conversation with another member. They'll have their eyes open for you to introduce them and be welcoming. And, oh, hi, I know, yeah, I heard you were coming. I'm really excited to hear more about your business. And you've got a nice, warm introduction. When you sign in, people say, I'll get you a tea and coffee, and somebody else will be going to get it for them. And then by the time they've dumped their stuff at the table, somebody's given them a tea or coffee in their hand, and you just introduce them to the next person. It should be seamless. If you've invited 2 or 3 people, that gets a bit tricky, so you probably have to hand over to a visitor host. But if you know you've only got one person, I'd do the whole thing. A visitor host can help to sign them in, but you'll be standing there having a chat about their business, explaining possibly what's going to go on in the meeting. You can show them to their seat while another visitor host gets them a tea or coffee, and then you introduce them to the next person. But obviously from that point of view, you can say, I'll leave you with Bill, he's going to be chatting to you about, and I'll go and find that other person I was telling you about. So you're not with them the whole time, otherwise they might feel a little bit pressure cookers, you know, sort of, you don't want to be there the whole time. I mean, if you've invited them, it's nice for you to sit next to them, because during the 60-second round, you should be standing up to introduce them. If you stand up and say, oh, I met so-and-so yesterday, or I've never met them before in my life, but I met them on LinkedIn and they wanted to come, or this is my best friend, we went to school together, is telling the room whether you're recommending them or not, or how well you know them. So it's a nice way for you to get the glory to say, I've invited someone today, and everyone's like, oh, great, you know, Richard's invited another visitor. Wow, I should pick my socks up and do some more work on that. But also that you're letting them know how well you know that visitor. So if they were thinking of doing some business with them, they want to know, oh, just because Richard brought them doesn't say Richard can endorse them, because you've got to let them know how well you know that person. So again, when you get them to sit down at the table, you say, and I'll be sitting next to you. And you make sure that your name tag is, or if you've got them, is next to theirs. And then you introduce them to someone useful, and you leave them to it for a little while, and maybe get somebody else to talk to them, because they don't want to be talking to that web designer for 20 minutes. It's too much. So keep an eye on them and just introduce new people. You're used to speaking in public, aren't you? So to you, if you had it sprung on you, you could probably wing it to a certain extent. But would you like to? I think it's very important that you give them forewarning. Even if you're used to speaking in public, it's not nice to have it sprung on you, and it gives them an opportunity to plan something, prepare something. I don't think it will stop them coming just because they have to do 60 seconds or a minute. And as you say, if they look nervous or they go, oh, flip, I can't do that, then you can say, oh, don't worry, I'll write something for you and just read it out. That's fine. And again, visitors don't, if they are nervous, sometimes they will rattle on. And then if they're sort of dinged or timed out, then they get embarrassed that, oh my goodness, I've spoken for too long. So I think it's nice to let them know you've got a minute, that's fine. And the sort of things you need to say is, I had a young guy on Tuesday who is a plasterer. And it's really funny because I've been asking him to the chapter for about 4 years, and he's an old family friend. And he hasn't come, and the kitchen fitter invited him, he's turned up. And he said, I thought this was a meeting in a cafe, I didn't realise it was going to be this posh. I said, you do know you've got to do 60 seconds, don't you? He went, what? I went, well, and he said, what do I say? So, I gave him a few ideas, and I said, oh, just tell him you know me, and that'll be all right. And I stood up and I endorsed him. But he was so nervous, but he didn't show it because we had a little chance to go through something before the meeting, before we sat down. So I think it's only fair to tell them. And if they do appear nervous, then write it down for them. It's, even if they only do 20 seconds, that's better than I say your name, say your company, say how fantastic you are at what you do, and sit down. That's fine. And that's all they have to do. But yeah, it's, I don't like it being sprung on people. It's the same as, oh, did you bring your business cards? Oh no, I didn't know I had to. Oh, what a shame. And they're feeling gutted because that's another opportunity they've missed. Or they'll go, oh, they're in my car. Well, go and get them then. Go on. It's like, oh, okay then. So they're happy they've done it. A lot of people leave them in the car and forget about them. So again, when you get to the table, you can say things like that. You do know you've got to do your 60 seconds or a minute. You get a chance to talk to the room, and have you got your business cards? And they're grateful that you've let them know, because if it's done at the time, they're sitting there watching everyone else do their 60 seconds going, oh, have I got to do this? Oh my goodness. And they don't know.